Many of our doctors are confused about Roth accounts. I don't know if you know this, but it's possible to have both a Roth IRA and even a Roth 401k or 403b at work. And today we're going to be showing you how to maximize your tax-free Roth accounts. And we're going to cover both Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, and 403bs. We'll talk about how they work individually and together so that doctors can reach their retirement goals in the best possible place with as much tax-free income as possible. So welcome back to More Money Minutes for Doctors. I'm Catherine Vestnes, CEO and founder of MD Financial Advisors, where our mission is to help high-income doctors keep more of their hard-earned income and become high net worth doctors. So welcome back. So first of all, what are Roth accounts? If you've been following us, you probably know by now that Roth accounts hold post-tax dollars for retirement. In other words, you pay the tax on these accounts upfront. Think of these accounts as having tax insurance. I love them because no matter what Congress does with the taxes in the future, you will know that you've already paid the taxes on these accounts and they shouldn't be tapping into them again. So when you pull the money out in retirement, everything you're pulling out is all tax-free. Yay! This includes your original investment and all of the earnings that you have on these accounts, no taxes. So even if tax rates go up in the future, your tax insurance says you won't be hit with additional taxes on these accounts. Now, let's talk about Roth IRAs versus a Roth 401k, or maybe a Roth 403b. So today when I'm talking about Roth 401ks, I'm also including in my mind Roth 403bs. They're really interchangeable for this conversation. Many of our doctors come to us thinking you can only have one or the other. And so let's go into some of the details because it's going to really help you get more tax-free dollars in the future. So let's talk about who can contribute. I'll start with Roth IRAs. Anyone can open a Roth IRA, but there's a catch. You can't necessarily fund one. Isn't that crazy? You can open an account, but the IRS won't necessarily let you put money into it. So one thing that you need is income for the year. Or sometimes you can actually do it for a spouse. Maybe your spouse is working and the unemployed spouse is not, but the unemployed spouse can actually contribute to their own Roth IRA. Once again, assuming the spouse is working. But you also must have income below a certain limit. So in 2024, single doctors whose income is over $161,000 a year cannot directly contribute to a Roth IRA. Married doctors, and they're filing jointly, cannot contribute if they're making more than $240,000. The IRS goes, you just make too much money. Sorry, we're not going to let you put money directly into a Roth IRA. So this rules out almost all of our clients unless they're residents and fellows. They can't contribute directly. They make too much money. However, some of our doctors can use a strategy that we call the Backdoor Roth Conversion Strategy. And we did an article on this last year. I've got a lot more details on the website. So if you want, click on the website, you can get the article, or we've done some other podcasts and videos on this topic, or you can email us and we'll send you some links. So if you qualify, I strongly recommend you take advantage of the Backdoor Roth strategy. Once again, look at our article and our podcast for more information. Now, Roth 401ks and Roth 403bs are an entirely different matter altogether. Anyone can contribute to these accounts as long as they're offered by your employer. So of course you have to be working someplace. The employer has to offer them. Now what's so interesting is 10 or 15 years ago, a ton of doctors were working for places that had no Roth accounts. They just had pre-tax. But in the last couple of years, I've noticed pretty much every single doctor we have has the opportunity to do a Roth account at work. I think that's a really good thing. There are no income ceilings to prohibit high-earning doctors from contributing. So you could be $1 million a year orthodontist, and you could still contribute to a Roth 401k or Roth 403b. And your limits, you're going to see in just a minute, are going to be exactly the same as a pediatrician that's making $200,000 a year. So with these, you can voluntarily contribute to your Roth accounts at work. Once again, they'll deduct the amounts that go into your account from every paycheck. You will have to pay tax on this money. Remember I said tax insurance we pay up front. So let's look at the contribution limits. So a Roth IRA For 2024, the year I'm recording this, you can contribute $7,000 a year. I should say up to. If for some reason your income was only $5,000 this year, you could only contribute $5,000. But let's say for our purposes, that's $7,000 a year. If you're 50 or older, that oh so benevolent IRS says you guys get to contribute $8,000 a year. Yeah, I know it's not a lot, but hey, all of it adds up. Now, whether you're a Roth 401k or 403b, you can contribute up to $23,000 in 2024. But if you're 50 or older, you can actually do $30,500 this year. Now, you're probably wondering, does maximizing the limits really matter? Maybe I can't really do all $7,000 in my Roth IRA, or I've got other expenses, and I don't know if I really want to completely max out my work account. I would say I would strongly encourage you to max them out if at all possible. So let's say at age 30, you start contributing $7,000 a year to your Roth IRA, and you maximize your Roth 401k at work at $23,000. Now, let's assume that the IRS does not increase the amount that you can put in every year, but let's assume you could actually get an 8% return on these funds. By the time you are 50, you're actually going to have $1.6 million. Pretty shocking. And if at 50, you start using your catch-up contributions to contribute $8,000 instead of $7,000, or by the time you're 65, take a deep breath, you're going to have over $6.3 million, assuming that same 8% growth rate. So is it important to max it out? Yes, absolutely. This is where a little funding over time can absolutely make a huge, huge, huge difference. Now, how does your employer match at work? Well, with a Roth IRA, these are not sponsored by an employer, so there's no employer match. Sorry, but I guess that makes sense. A Roth 401k, however, there's no requirement for an employer to provide any match at work, but almost all employers do up to a certain percent. It might be 2 or 3. There was a time when it was actually 12% for some of our Rhode Island clients. It was a lovely, lovely match that has long since gone away. Now, any employer match has to go into your pre-tax accounts at work. It never, ever goes into the Roth accounts, unfortunately. So keep that in mind as we go forward. That's additional money on top of what we're talking about today. I'm just talking about money that you yourself decide that you want to put into your accounts. And the employer match is something gravy on top. So let's talk a minute, too, about investment options. Roth IRAs can be invested almost any way that you can possibly imagine. You can pick stocks, bonds, even other hard assets like gold and silver. Now, we prefer to put our doctors' Roth accounts into diversified funds using an evidence-based approach to take advantage of the market. We want the market to work for you. So those in some ways are the easiest. Roth 401ks or 403bs at work can be a little bit more complicated because you're limited to whatever options your employer provides. Sometimes they have hundreds and hundreds of options, and sometimes if you have a few, sometimes the employers might have a couple of evidence-based funds like the dimensional funds or Advantis in your work accounts, and sometimes not, sometimes just a lot of actively managed funds. So it can be difficult for a doctor to select a really, really good fund. Now, they're going to offer you a retirement age-based fund, meaning the farther you are from retirement, the more stocks, less bonds are going to be in these accounts. I really don't like those at all. So if you need some help selecting accounts at work, reach out to us. It's why we're here. We'll take a look at what your best options are and give you some advice on what would be good choices for you. Watch out for some of these funds. I've seen doctors unknowingly choose funds that had internal fees as high as 2%. I know it's shocking. It's just the numbers are so high. Think about that. If that's a 2% internal fee, and you make 3%, you're only really netting 1% per year. So watch out for ones with very high internal fees. All right, the next question is, obviously we are putting this money away so we can withdraw it and spend it in retirement. How do we take the money out of these accounts? So with a Roth IRA, there's a 10% penalty and ordinary income tax if you pull these funds out before you reach the age of 59 and a half. The good news is there's no required minimum distributions for this kind of account. So if we had this same kind of money in a pre-tax account, the IRS, once you get to a certain age, will require you to do what's called RMDs, required minimum distributions, and you have to pull the money out. You have to pay taxes on it. But that is not true for a Roth account. Now, there are some rules that do allow you to withdraw the principal after a certain time, but I have never, ever recommended it to a client. For one reason is once you take that principal out, there's no way to get the funds back, and you've really lost all the potential for that future tax-free growth. Roth 401ks, they also have a penalty for early withdrawals. If you withdraw funds before age 59 and a half, once again, you just like with Roth IRAs, you have to pay ordinary income tax on the earnings. Now, if you withdraw it all after 59 and a half, whoopee, all tax-free, and once again, no required minimum distributions. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, all of us should do this. I think it's important to talk about who shouldn't invest in a Roth account. Let me go over a couple of case studies. Number one, Dr. Susan, she's 68 and she's retiring in 2 years at the age of 70. She has no funds in a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. Zip, she literally has zero in the tax-free bucket. And she's at the top of her earnings potential. She makes $450,000 a year. So the question is, should Susan start contributing to both her Roth IRA and her Roth 401k at work? Now, I had this situation recently, and the answer may surprise you. I actually suggested she not fund her Roth 401k. And here's the reason. She's already in a very, very high tax bracket. And if she funded her Roth 401k this year, it would increase her taxable income by $30,500 or cost her $10,000, $12,000 in taxes. Now, in her case, she's going to be in a much lower tax bracket in 2 years. So I didn't think it was worth it for her. I did suggest, though, that she do a backdoor Roth this year of $8,000. And here's my thought. That $8,000 is going to go in after tax. She could either put it in a brokerage account or she could put it into her Roth IRA. If she puts it into her brokerage account, great, it's liquid. But when she pulls the money out, she's going to have some capital gains tax on the earnings. She puts it into her Roth account, whoopee, she does not have to pay tax on the earnings. All right, that's one situation. Another one is case study number 2, or Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike is an orthopedic surgeon in New York City. It's true, Mike makes a lovely income of $1.1 million per year. He's 42 years old and he's still paying medical school debts. Now, because Mike is in the highest federal tax bracket, he also pays very high state taxes in New York, and lucky Mike, he gets to pay city income taxes too. Yes, very painful for Dr. Mike. This is another case where I suggested he forego the Roth 401k or 403b. He too needs these extra deductions that he would get by putting that same money in a pre-tax account this year because he has so few ways of reducing his tax bill. And if he funded his Roth 401k, it could easily cost him $12,000, give or take, maybe more, maybe less. A big, big cut to his take-home pay. However, once again, this is a case where I would definitely recommend that he fund his backdoor Roth IRA. In conclusion, Roth accounts, whether it's a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, are one of the very, very few ways we have of getting tax-free income in retirement. For most of our doctors, I think you should fund both accounts every single year without fail. And by using both of these accounts together, you literally can have millions of tax-free dollars in retirement, even with these strict funding rules and limits. So it's good to start early, though. As you could see from my examples before, the earlier you start, the more time you have for these funds to compound. Some cases, though, this general rule may not be a good option for you. So once again, please discuss it with us before you fund your accounts, and we will see if you should fund the pre-tax or the post-tax Roth accounts. In closing, I hope you found this helpful. I would so appreciate it if you would forward it to your colleagues. You probably figure out by now, we do not take any advertising. I pay for this. I just want to make sure that our clients are getting really, really, really good information that can help them. As you know, I have a passion for making sure that doctors can retire with a sense of peace and not worry about running out of money. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you'd like a second opinion on your financial health, please reach out to us. You can do that by emailing us at info@mdfinancialadvisors.com. And as I mentioned, if you did find this helpful, I would be so grateful if you'd forward it on to your colleagues. Finally, Deep breath. Take care of yourself. Plan, protect, and prosper.